Well, good morning, BSB. Scott Nelson from TPR Media, back with you again. A little bit different today because I'm actually streaming from the phone. So, working from home this morning because it's been one of those days. But what I was talking to you today is a bit of a concept that I refer to as turning the dial. What it really is, we've been talking over the last few weeks about getting your fundamentals right. And this is one of the pieces of advice I give to every business owner, every marketing manager, everyone who sort of can't see the forest for the trees, is make sure you get the basics right first. Like the very first thing that I talked about, and the one that I always keep coming back to, is making sure your fundamentals are in place. Like, what happens when I Google you? What am I going to see first? Is that Google My Business listing right? When I go through the website, is that all correct? Perfect. Then we've got some basics up and running. We've got a simple ad campaign. We are starting to gather some data, and we are starting to look at what's working, what's not, and what we can learn from that. From there, once we start compiling that little bit of data, we can actually start working with that and looking at where people are coming from, not just our wild assumptions, but factual information of where people are searching, what they're searching for, what sort of phrases that they're using to come about to your service. And then we can start to understand in a little more detail the specific things that are actually triggering that search for your product. Now, once we've got that information, we can really start to drill in on the personality of your business, your own personality, and how we can start bringing those into your advertising as well. Because again, I don't like to complicate things. I don't like to try and be too clever. I think that it is always wise, particularly when you're starting with something for the first time. And I guess that's the point that I'm referring to. Not somebody that's in it for their third to fifth year. However, this is actually just as valuable to go back to fundamentals, but really looking at a starting point of what your audience is actually giving you in terms of feedback. How are they finding you? How are they getting to you? What are the searches that are triggering them to come and find you? What we can learn from that is some of the behavioral elements. Is there a need for more education around your product? Are there ads that you can be sharing that are, more informative in terms of, describing to people in detail the problems that you solve? And when we start looking into those, then we can sort of start using, a little bit more entertainment, maybe a little bit more humor, maybe, a little bit more factual data. And we can start to be a little bit more clever with what it is that we're producing. And this is where I personally find that advertising gets far more exciting, is when you can actually move past your fundamentals and you can start, delving into that world of big ideas, crazy ideas, what might work, and start to actually test them. These are some of my favorite things. And this is where, some truly fantastic campaigns actually come together, is when you can sort of start thinking, okay, so what's a really entertaining and engaging way that we can tell that story? And this is how we can really start gearing in to, as I said, turning that dial to go, these are some things that we can be doing to really start ratcheting it up. And I look at examples where, you might go from just a simple text-based ad to maybe we're using, some motion graphics, maybe we've produced some video content, maybe we are making some reels, maybe we're making some GIFs, maybe we're, whatever it is that we can think of, and actually start being a little bit more creative with that. And then that data itself that we get back from those campaigns, once again, is the thing. That's the metric that we always come back to. How do these things perform? And it's really understanding your audience, understanding your product, and then finding the best way to connect those two. And again, these things I talk about, they're not, this isn't rocket science. The rocket science comes in actually creating them with that little bit of skill. And this is, this is why you reach out to somebody with these specific skill sets. It's why you go to content creators, video producers, marketing people, because they have the capacity to look at your business from a more impartial point of view. And they will have the capacity to show you things that, you might not have seen otherwise. So that's just a little bit today on my concept of turning the dial. If you'd like any more information around this, or if you'd like to talk further, my email, scott@tpr.media, and look forward to chatting to you soon on BSB. All the best.